Jin So-woon had one of the most absurd talents a martial artist could possibly possess. He could remember almost anything after seeing it once. Sword techniques, secret manuals, battle reports. Eventually, Jin memorized so much knowledge that his mind contained practically an entire library of the Murim Alliance. There was just one problem. Jin himself was weak. While geniuses around him became powerful martial artists, Jin spent his life remembering techniques his body could never properly use. And when war finally consumed Murim, that weakness cost him everything. His junior brothers died one after another. His sect was sacrificed as cannon fodder. And after Jin had finished memorizing the Alliance's most valuable secrets, the very people he served decided that someone carrying that much knowledge was too dangerous to leave alive. So Jin died wishing for one thing. If heaven had given him another chance, he wouldn't waste his life merely remembering the strength of other people. He would become strong enough to protect everyone himself. Then Jin opened his eyes. Years in the past, his weak body had returned. His friends were alive again, but so had every single memory the Murim Alliance desperately wanted buried with him. Thousands of martial arts, hidden weaknesses of famous techniques, locations of treasures that haven't been discovered yet, and knowledge of a future where everyone Jin loves is destined to die. In his first life, Jin's perfect memory made him useful. In his second, it's going to make him a monster. But before Jin could rewrite the future, his first life had to come to an end. Under the guise of a blue moon, a man congratulates the captain of the Sojong unit, Jin So-woon. His memory is truly amazing. Thanks to him, they have restored all the records of the Murim Alliance. He has his deepest gratitude. This is the leader of the Murim Alliance, Taeeul Divine Sword Yongseoe. Jin notes that he memorized them because he was told to, and he restored them because he was ordered to. Yet his reward is that of a dog's death. Yongseoe slowly pulls out his blade, having heard that he even memorized the archives of Simhyon Pavilion, where the Alliance's highest secrets are kept. If someone like Jin were to collude with the demonic cult, or be captured and tortured for information, the Alliance would be in danger. For the justice of the martial world and the Alliance's safety, Jin must disappear from this world, along with all of his memories. Jin scoffs. Greater good, huh? He slowly begins to get up and tells him that the Alliance has already been defeated. He's barely clinging to life after fleeing from the demonic cult, yet he thinks there is more danger to fear from someone with barely any martial prowess. How surprising. Yongseoe's expression doesn't falter, as he tells him that the Alliance will defeat the demonic cult and restore their foundation. Jin continues, noting that the same alliance that sacrificed countless people as shields while fleeing to the North Sea somehow claims it will restore itself. He would really like to see how they uphold the glorious greater good they preach so much about. But seeing that the alliance values the greater good more than human lives, he can hardly tell which side is the demonic cult, and which is the Murim Alliance. Before Yongseoe can accuse him of being tainted by corrupted energies, Jin throws himself off the cliff, noting that he regretted entrusting his fate, and the fate of the Taeeul Sect, to the Alliance's filthy hands. At the very least, his death will be something he does, something he chooses. He continues falling from the cliff, remembering everything that made his life a living hell. When the war between the Alliance and the cult began, he and his junior brothers, warriors of a small sect, were drafted into the war. However, the cult was strong, and the Alliance was weak. Eventually, the Alliance decided to flee to the North Sea, and they were used as shields to buy time for the leaders of the Alliance to escape. The Alliance, having fled to the North Sea, came to him with a proposal to memorize every record of the Alliance. In exchange, they would pull his Taeeul Sect brothers from the battlefield, so he memorized them desperately. However, maybe now that he thinks about it, he should have gone to the battlefield instead of the library. If he had, perhaps he could have sacrificed himself to help even one more person escape. Perhaps he should have practiced his martial arts harder before all of this. Now, with regret in his mind, he wonders why the heavens bestowed such a useless ability upon him. If they're going to give him something, they should have given him something better. With deep regret, he thinks that he should have become strong enough to save his junior brothers, instead of begging others for protection. He should have had the power to protect them himself. He should have become an unforgettable genius martial artist. As the light fades from his vision, a new light is born. He is under the sun in a familiar place, with someone telling him to get up and nudging him with a wooden sword, calling him a pathetic loser. Even his junior brothers who lost lasted longer than this. Jin slowly gets up, believing that this is a cursed memory. Even now, it's making him remember pain, as well as that his entire body hurts like hell. However, that's when he realizes where he is. This place is the Taeeul Sect training ground. In front of him are his junior brothers, filling him with emotion. He rushes in and hugs two of them, junior sister Hong and Gyung-pyo, both of whom wonder what he's doing and whether something happened. Everyone is here as well, his fellow disciples of the Taeeul Sect. He now believes that this is a flashback before death. He thinks this memory is not even allowing him the reprieve of death, but this part is actually nice. The two he hugged wonder what the hell is going on, and Jin begins poking Hong on the cheek. She was really cute when she was young. Even now he misses how she nagged him. There was Gyung-pyo, who was a bedwetter when they were young, which was pretty annoying. If he could go back, he would wash the blankets with him 1,000 times over. As he continues mindlessly cheering, Cheol-yong appears behind him and wonders if Jin is acting crazy because he's scared to fight. If he doesn't pick up his blade, now his precious little juniors will have to take his place. Jin's expression sours as he realizes he can't avoid the fight. This flashback shows him only the good parts. This is a little cruel. Out of all people, why did it have to be him? This is Cheol-yong, the pampered young master of the Girong Merchant Guild, who joined the Taeeul Sect with a pretty large donation. He's relying on his father's wealth and power, and he used duels as an excuse to beat their disciples half to death. They couldn't even fight back, feeling that the funding would stop, so they just had to take the hits. But now, if this is what they want, if the heavens are granting him a chance to beat him up, even in flashback, he cannot refuse. Should he get some revenge for the past? Taeeul gets annoyed, and immediately rushes in, calling him an arrogant bastard. However, now Jin can see his footwork clearly, as this is the sword art he suffered from so many times in his past life, the Three-Shadow Sword. It's a martial art the Girong Merchant Guild had him learn privately from Hyun Won Su, a famous wandering ronin. True to the style of a ronin, its forms are rough, and its aura is fierce, since he deliberately targets the eyes. The young disciples of the Taeeul Sect were completely helpless. The old him memorized the forms and patterns the moment he saw them, but back then he did not have the ability to dodge or counterattack. However, compared to those demonic cult bastards he's fought again and again, and compared to every single technique he desperately memorized in the library, this much is nothing. It's child's play. Taeeul tries to rush in again after his missed attack, but Jin rushes in first, using the Lesser Heaven sword art, the first basic form, to completely overwhelm Taeeul, who is shocked that he is using that. Jin stands behind him and above him, absolutely ecstatic to have the chance to beat him up. As this is incredibly satisfying, he smacks him across the head with incredible force, leaving everyone stunned for a moment. Taeeul speaks in a low, deadly tone, asking how he dares to use that trashy Lesser Heaven sword art to crack his head open. As the heir of the Gyeorong Merchant Guild, he hopes Jin can handle the consequences. He says this as he charges in, only to immediately fall unconscious, leaving Jin a little confused. With his victory, his senior brother and sisters immediately begin to cheer, glad that their senior brother had actually won. Jin can't believe he would get to thrash this bastard before he dies. The heavens have granted him a mercy. He has no more regrets in this life, but he really doesn't want to wake up from this flashback. Suddenly, though, Hong punches him straight in the cheek and asks if he's lost his damn mind. What if the Girong Merchant Guild cut their funding? Does he think the rest of them let Taeeul hit them because they're idiots? Jin doesn't even hear her, as he realizes that his cheek hurts, and wonders, is this really not a flashback? Hong gets even more annoyed and uppercuts him hard, making him fall down, and his soul almost leave his body, as he realizes that he's actually returned to the past. Later Jin is in the infirmary. When he opened his eyes he was lying in this bed. While he was at it, he decided to rehearse everything that had happened. It all started with the resurrection of the demonic cult. The Murim Alliance fought against them, but was destroyed after losing that war. Since their Taeeul Sect belonged to the Alliance, they were on the brink of extinction. In the midst of that, thanks to his really good memory, he was tasked with memorizing and restoring every single book that the Alliance owned. He pleaded with them, telling them that he could memorize more. He would take every book and document in the Murim Alliance, and without missing a single character, would record them inside his head. In exchange, they should spare his sick disciples from the front lines, but instead, they claimed his memory could hinder their future. He thought he died then, but when he opened his eyes, he was back in the past. Thanks to the memories of the secret manuals inside of his head, he beat down Taeeul, someone he could have never defeated before. But he wonders what the hell is happening. Come to think of it, his body and clothes have returned to how they were back then, but this blue dragon bracelet followed him to the past. He got it through one of their victories during the countless battles against the demonic cult. More specifically, after defeating the cult's Law King, they got this blue dragon bracelet. He remembers this bracelet suddenly glowing as he drew his last breath in his previous life. But why is that? Could this bracelet be related to it? Suddenly, he hears a voice rising just outside the infirmary door, demanding that the brat Jin be handed over this instant. He needs to see the punk who cracked his son's head open. The sect leader apologizes, stating it was due to his lack of supervision, so he should speak to him, instead of Jin. The merchant master wonders if they've forgotten that Taeeul is the heir of their merchant guild. Even if he is temporarily training here, they survive on their guild's sponsorship. Or shall he cut off their funding starting this month? The sect leader acknowledges this, stating that of course, they are always grateful for the Gyeorong Merchant Guild's kindness. But seeing as Jin also collapsed, it seems Taeeul hit him just as hard, so they will discipline Jin strictly. The sect leader asks him to just let it slide this once. Jin recognized the silhouette of Taeeul father, so he listened closely. It is Yeon Seok, the leader of the Gyeorong Merchant Guild. He tells the sect leader to make sure that Jin is properly punished, as a country bumpkin seems to have forgotten his place. This is why the Taeeul Sect is in such a state. Jin, hearing those words and remembering everything that happened with all of his junior brothers dying one after another before he died too, snaps the chewing stick he had and gets up, as now it's time to start some real trouble. After their talk, the sect leader sees the leader of the guild out, who scoffs and says he will let it slide just this once. Suddenly Jin appears above him, noting that he heard he was looking for him quite desperately. He is here then, the lowly country bumpkin, Jin So-woon. His almost grandpa-like bow takes Yeon Seok and his servant by surprise. Yeon Seok sours his face, noting that he's the one who hurt his son, Taeeul. What a damn punk. Jin sighs as he gets down from the fence, as being called a punk is a bit much. They're not even that far apart in age. Jin realizes what he said, forgetting that he actually regressed, and puts his hands together, noting that he's making such a fuss over a single hit to the head during a duel. When senior brother Taeeul enters the Murim Academy, does he plan on following him there and making a scene? Seok asks how he dares to be so brazen. He used an excuse to crack his son's head open with tricks. Besides, Taeeul has no need to train in a place like this sect. The sect's only job is to serve him until he enters the Murim Academy. Jin sighs with an almost paternal expression, noting that more than 10 of his junior brothers were beaten so badly they couldn't get up for days. And since they're talking about duels, he wants to say one more thing too. If his skills are so poor that he lost to a lowly country bumpkin from a third-rate sect, he will never be able to enter the Murim Academy. Seok starts to quiver with rage, and grabs Jin by the collar of his GI, noting that if the Gyeorong Merchant Guild cuts off its sponsorship to the Taeeul Sect, can Jin take responsibility for the consequences? Is that why he's so arrogant? The Taeeul Sect may be a part of the 108 Peaks, but it's just a third-rate sect that's on its way to ruin. Seok could easily negotiate with any other sect if he wished, but if he does, the Taeeul Sect will have to worry about how they will get their next meal. Jin remembers the 108 Peaks. It's a term referring to the top 108 sects of the Murim Alliance. The Taeeul Sect is one of them. In other words, it's a third-rate sect that lost its former glory, and only has that title left. Regardless, there is one privilege granted to these 108 Peak sects, and that is during the entrance exam. Each sect can recommend one disciple for special admission without any sort of testing. In other words, Taeeul is the heir of the Gyeorong Merchant Guild, not a member of the 108 Peaks, but to get into the Murim Alliance through that special admission, his father paid them a massive sponsorship fee. That is why he joined their insignificant sect as a lay disciple. However, Jin now tells him to go ahead. He will take full responsibility, so he should go ahead and cut them off. But he is curious. With less than a year left for the special admission screening, why did he choose this place out of all of the 108 Peak sects? Why did he send his precious son to such a pathetic and lowly place? Surely it's not because everyone else rejected him. Seok gets incredibly annoyed, but he can't really argue. In his past life, Jin catered to the Gyeorong Merchant Guild's every whim. They actually recommended Taeeul and got him into the Murim Academy. Seok shoves Jin away, asking if he doesn't realize the Murim Alliance doesn't give a damn about his sect. He should remember that only their merchant guild can save them. Jin approaches, as he knows that after Taeeul entered the academy, the Merchant Guild eventually cut off their support anyway. He tells Seok that he should remember that only the Taeeul Sect can save them. With that, he walks away, as begging others for protection is useless. They must have the strength to protect themselves, because that is what he learned from already dying once. However, he really hasn't thought that far yet about how he will even do it. Jin decides to take a little walk inside a very wavy cavern, as right now, he only has one goal: to become strong. It's hard to become strong with just their inefficient cultivation method and Lesser Heaven sword art, so there is only one way left: gaining overwhelming internal energy through an elixir. He is aiming for the legendary elixir, the 10,000-year Fire Ginseng. He got this from the record of Zhonghu Elixirs, one of the Murim Alliance's secret documents. It detailed the location, timing, and even the movement patterns of every elixir. Every single bit of that information is now inside his brain. The plan is to recall those records and hunt down every single elixir for himself. However, the problem is this gatekeeper. He has to steal it, as obtaining the 10,000-year Fire Ginseng is the first step. Using their useless Lesser Heaven sword art, he will take down the beast in one strike, but he throws his blade away, as that will never happen. His internal energy and sword technique are both pathetic. He shouldn't bother wasting his strength. He picks up a torch, as later in life he came to realize something. After cramming hundreds of thousands of books inside of his mind, he learned that exceptional swordsmanship is not the be-all and end-all. The way of the sword, martial arts, he doesn't really care about any of that. Winning is all that matters, and now he burns the Spider Guardian using that torch. He is actually really grateful to the Murim Alliance bastards, as he was really naive back then. Eventually the Spider Beast stands defeated, and Jin consumes the ginseng. However, he screams that it is clearly not enough. He ate a whole rare herb, yet his internal energy only grew so much. He can't believe he absorbed so little of such a high-quality elixir. The Taeeul mind method really is extremely flawed, as his dantian basically grew by a hair's width. At this rate, against the events to come, he will not be able to protect the sect. Once the Great War begins, low-ranking warriors are used as meat shields. In this life, he must ensure the disciples of the sect do not die in vain. To do that, he must become a key figure in the Murim Alliance before the war even begins. That's the only way to save the Taeeul Sect. The first step was entering the Murim Academy within a year, but at the rate he's going, he won't even be able to get in. If this continues, nothing will change. He needs to think. He needs more internal energy. An elixir, but that's when he remembers that the Snow Plum elixir theft hasn't happened yet, so there is still a chance, because people always leave a trace behind and he can definitely find it. He must. Using the library in his mind, he opens the Murim Alliance Hefei branch monthly report. If he looks closely, there is a clue somewhere in his memories. He begins searching through his memories and compiling the records he remembers, using deduction to narrow them down to 3 names: the soul-chasing wanderer Chu Honggak, Gu Il-mu, and Jang Honggi. He closes the book in his mind and says that, acting as a walking library, he's finally paying his dues. He'll be taking that Snow Plum elixir for himself. As he pulls his blade out of the beast, the blue dragon bracelet suddenly begins to glow. A dark, vivid energy shoots from it toward the beast's core, consumes it, and then flows back into Jin. allowing him to absorb the human-faced spider's inner core. This creates a show of beautiful light inside of the cavern, and afterwards Jin can definitely feel a difference. He can't help but laugh, unable to believe this. This is a trophy from a battle he barely won in his past life. The blue dragon bracelet, a relic of the blood-sucking weird demon, a guardian Dharma king of the demonic cult. He kept it to honor the victory and the sacrifice. Now it's suddenly activating again. He unleashes a devastating punch into the nearby wall to test his power, because he has purified the wicked energy of the spider's inner core. The purified energy is naturally merging with the mind method. As a result, his dantian has grown considerably. Elsewhere, Taeeul Yang brags to Hong that this elixir, in Mount Hua at least, is the best for increasing energy after the purple cloud elixir. Even in their sect, only the true disciples can hope to get even one of them. That's how precious it is, and his father obtained that remedy just for him. Hong couldn't really care less. She's thinking about Jin, wondering where he is and what he's doing. Jin left the sect after that incident. He probably thought he was being considerate, since Yeon Seok kept coming by, but that's a foolish choice. She calls him a dummy and an idiot in her mind. Before Taeeul Yang can brag any further, the other Taeeul Sect kids push past him left and right, making him end up on the ground as they come to Hong with a bunch of food, telling her to try it, as it is amazing. Taeeul Yang decides to sulk off. Hong tells the disciples that they should be in the dining hall. Why did they bring the food all the way here? They should go ahead and eat. They must be hungry since they only had one meal yesterday. However, they all realize that she was thinking about senior brother Jin again, wasn't she? She always gets quiet when she thinks about him, even though she's usually the loudest one. Hong blushes at their pretty childish observations, as they are accurate, and their thoughts immediately shift. Now they are thinking about Jin too, noting that they should save some rice cakes and meat for him. Hong, seeing this, decides to push them, taking a bite of each and telling them that if they don't eat now, she's going to take it all for herself. The juniors immediately begin munching on their food, but her mind is still on Jin, wondering where he is, and why he left these kids behind. He really is an idiot. The banquet of the Merchant Guild continues in full swing until the night arrives. Everyone gets pretty pissed drunk. Women dance around in celebration. At that point, the thief has already struck, taking the elixir and getting out of the general area. He can't believe it. He actually got the famous elixir of the Mount Hua sect. The great Gyeorong Merchant Guild's secret vault wasn't all that much either. This is the soul-chasing wanderer Chu Honggak. He opens it and can't believe it. He shakes with glee. With this elixir, he will have enough internal energy to master the divine palm of the mad heavens. This is a true victory for him. Before he can think of getting out of there, however, someone arrives and decapitates him on the spot, ending his life before he even realized what was going on. The man picks up the bloody elixir, apologizing for this, but just like him, he needs this quite a bit. Well, he stole it first. A few days before the snow plum elixir theft, Jin went to a hunting shop, which had all sorts of things like traps and bows. He came here because he heard the shopkeeper had merchandise that was hard to find. He asked if he happened to sell traps. The trapper put a knife through a bunny and noted that Jin was rather interesting. The trapper explained that this was the best hunter supply store in all of Hefei, and that they had traps for everything from rabbits to mountain lions. Jin handed him a sack of coins and told him to give him some tiger and bear traps. The trapper didn't know why, since hunting with those would ruin the pelt, but Jin told him it didn't matter. He just needed something sensitive enough to trigger if a single hair falls on it. Powerful enough to snap a bear's leg too. Actually, he should go with something that sends them straight to hell maybe. The trapper at that moment felt like he really didn't want to be selling traps to this guy, but business is business. Gu Ilmu looks at the stolen elixir, taking off his bandana. Gu Ilmu had heard Chu Honggak was famous in the martial world, so he thought the man would be more memorable, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Zhang Hanggi arrives, noting that this is to be expected of his senior brother, and that it was too easy. This is Zhang Hanggi of the Five Swords of Dian Kong, and the one who killed the other thief is Gu Ilmu, another member of the Five Swords of Dian Kong. He notes that they were worrying about nothing. First, they need to dispose of the body. For now, the soul-chasing wanderer needs to stay missing. That is the plan. Before that, though, Hanggi notes that they should take a look at this precious snow plum elixir. They both look at it, shocked by how pretty it is. Ilmu notes that he can already feel that rich scent of plum blossoms. This is definitely the snow plum elixir they have been looking for. Jin looks at it too. 2 mouths to feed, but there's only one snow plum elixir. How are they going to get over that? Suddenly, the other two realize that there's someone behind them, and Jin immediately retreats with the elixir as they try to strike. Ilmu tells Hanggi to go and catch that thief right now. Hanggi charges in, telling Jin to consider this his punishment for coveting what is beyond him. Jin begins to run away, calling them thieves. Is this what they teach at Dian Kong? They are the ones who stole it first. The two rush in to strike down Jin, but as they make their way to a leafier area, Jin stops and dodges one of Hanggi's attacks just in time. Jin tells him to watch his step as a bear trap clamps down on Hanggi's leg. Hanggi slowly realizes what happened as the pain hits him and he screams. Ilmu rushes at Jin, who notes that he told them to watch their steps beforehand, but they really didn't want to listen to him, huh? Ilmu grits his teeth, not knowing who this cowardly bastard is. But to think a swordsman would resort to such petty tricks. He should take off that mask and reveal himself in this instant. Jin picks up a rock and scoffs at his suggestion. Does he want the usual, perhaps? Perhaps he should tell him his sect, his master, and his name. Is that what he's asking for? That's really old-fashioned. The heavy stone lands right in front of Ilmu, and another trap springs up just as sharp as the last one, making Ilmu wince. Jin reveals that he is merely the new owner of the snow plum elixir, and asks if they are the two assassins who murdered Chu Honggak on his way to prison. How did he know who the real killers were? He found out something strange while reviewing the records. From the moment the snow plum elixir was stolen, all traces of Chu Hongok had vanished. Furthermore, no new rising experts appeared who seemed to have consumed that pill. He looked up records of every martial artist who showed even the slightest increase in internal energy during that time, and he caught this trail. The odds were high that Chu Hongok was murdered and buried, assuming at least 2 people split and consumed the snow plum elixir. Those who gained a sudden boost in energy for no apparent reason would be the culprits. Were these 2, Ilmu and Hang Gi, of the 5 swords of Dian Kong? Ilmu asks how he knows, but Jin wonders how he could not know about 2 of the 5 swords of the Dian Kang sect. Ilmu wonders if, knowing that, Jin is not afraid of the wrath of the Dian Kang sect and the entire Murim Alliance. Jin is surprised he didn't know a thief could report another thief for stealing his loot. Hang Gi has had enough of these petty tricks and charges up a mighty punch before crashing it into the ground, making all of the traps spring up in the air, or most of them. Hang Gi seems satisfied with the result, while Jin deems it a shame, as he didn't really expect those traps to be sprung so soon. Hang Gi gets up, noting that he will rip that mask off and tear off his limbs, with Ilmu congratulating his junior brother. Seeing this, Jin begins to run away again, and the others immediately get after him. Hang Gi tells his senior brother to watch out. He's heading towards the leaves again. The area must be full of traps, but Ilmu says, take the exact steps he took, which is a brilliant and foolish move. They begin doing just that, inching closer and closer. They laugh as it seems that his little party trick will not work anymore. With one last push, Jin gets out of the leafy area. The 2 immediately celebrate, thinking they have grasped the situation, and that this is the end of Jin's life. They both step just beside Jin's footprints, and Jin can't help but smile maniacally, as the traps spring up on their running legs, catching them. They fall down, the other traps embedding themselves in them as well, incapacitating them for good. Jin is actually surprised. He thought they were smarter than he anticipated, trying to move by only following his footsteps. They almost did have it, but unfortunately there is one thing they missed. Among these dense traps, they had to step exactly where he did, with absolute precision, without making a single error. Ilmu believes that would be impossible if Jin set the traps that close together to begin with. How in the heavens was he able to move so accurately? Jin pulls out his blade and notes that it's because of his memory, which is the only gift heaven ever granted him. With that, he takes the lives of these 2 thieves, and somewhere else the topic of the Taeeul Sect of Hefei comes up. The chief strategist of the Murim Alliance, Jagal Somyong, wonders if they were one of the 108 peaks. The elder of the Murim Alliance, Namgung Tae, the only one from a collateral line of the Namgung clan, says that he is correct. However, many powerful sects have emerged in Hefei in recent years. It is about time the alliance replaces it with a new peak. Jagal wonders if it's a sect expanding its influence in Hefei. He must be talking about the Iron Sword sect. He supposes the rumor circulating within the alliance was true after all. Taewon is backing the Iron Sword sect. He went to great lengths to procure these tea leaves for him. He hopes they are to his liking. Jagal tells him that he should know the rules. A sect of the 108 peaks is not easily replaced unless it commits a great offense. Is he telling him that the Taeeul Sect has done something wrong? Taewon sheepishly tells him that the word is that the Taeeul Sect is using their special admission rights to run a business. Jagal puts his cup down and wonders if he's saying that the Taeeul Sect is using their privileges to satisfy their own greed, something he finds unacceptable. Taewon pleads with him not to misunderstand. He is not bringing this up because he wants to take the spot in the 108 peaks. However, did the Murim Alliance not grant the 108 peaks privileges to honor those who fought together during their darkest times? He's simply finding it heartbreaking, as a member of the Alliance himself, to see these values starting to fade. That night, somewhere in an inn, Jin has just finished cultivating after taking the pill. He clenches his fist. The snow plum elixir certainly does live up to its name. He's gained over 30 years worth of internal energy, so he has finally surpassed the internal energy of even his past life. After getting dressed, he descends from his room and grabs the server's attention, who's been dozing off. The server is glad to see that Jin is finally out. Jin hadn't come out for 30 days, after all, and the server thought something had happened to him. Jin just sits down and tells him to bring him something edible. The server is a little confused, as the kitchen is already closed. Jin puts a bunch of coins on the table, noting that he will make it worth their while. He will pay for a week's worth of room and board in advance too. Immediately, the server goes to wake up the chef while throwing the money in the air, with Jin thinking that money really does make the world go around. He's glad he used the blue dragon bracelet to secure some funds beforehand, as it did not just work on monsters. It could extract vitality from any living creature, and he could absorb it as his own internal energy. Additionally, he got a bunch of tiger hides, which were a bonus. It's good to have a way to make money. The problem is, though, that the power of the blue dragon bracelet is a dangerous ability that could easily be mistaken for a demonic cult's art. One of the 10 forbidden arts designated by the Murim Alliance is the star-absorbing art, but the bracelet's power is not the same thing. If the Alliance finds out, not just Jin, but everyone in his sect will be in danger, so he will never let them find out. The server soon arrives with a bunch of food, a lot more than Jin expected. As he begins eating, the server doesn't leave, looking around Jin for a bit before asking if he's heard the rumor. The Gairong Merchant Guild had a banquet recently to celebrate obtaining a precious elixir. However, they say that the elixir was stolen right in the middle of the banquet. To steal it from such a crowded place without anyone noticing, that thief must have been a real pro. Anyway, the Murim Alliance even sent an investigation team to catch the culprit. Jin chokes on his noodles, and the server hands him some water, but he says he's fine, and tells the server to continue talking. What about the Murim Alliance? Jin is starting to overthink. Perhaps they found some evidence or caught someone. If they caught someone, that's a huge problem. He is the real culprit, which means they will arrest an innocent person. However, the server tells him that they said the trail went cold almost immediately, so they couldn't find the culprit. Jin sighs in relief internally, but externally he nods with ancient wisdom, and notes that the owner must be devastated. The server agrees. The banquet ended early too, so they lost a lot of customers because of that. However, another banquet is being held in Hefei soon. Jin wonders if it's the Gyerong Merchant Guild again, but the server denies it. It's actually the Iron Sword Sect. The Iron Sword Sect's leader is turning 60 now, so they're throwing a feast for 7 days and nights. It's peak season for them, so they are really looking forward to it. Jin's expression falters immediately, as he remembers it was definitely around this time that the Iron Sword Sect leader's 60th birthday banquet took place. In his past life, his father at that same banquet had to kneel before a massive crowd and beg the Iron Sword Sect leader for forgiveness. It was all because of his son. He clenches his fists, as this time he must avoid the Iron Sword Sect at all costs. He thanks the server for the meal and begins walking away, as he won't let his father suffer such humiliation because of him again. He will never allow it. That's what he thought anyway. But why on earth is he at the Iron Sword Sect leader's banquet now? And why is he dueling with his grandson at this very moment? A few days ago at the Taeeul Sect, people were training in earnest. The gold, silver, and bronze brothers, the youngest Dong Ryong, the second Yun Ho, and the eldest Gyung Pyo, were taking a break. The silver brother couldn't believe it. 100 vertical strikes in this weather. Is this really going to help with their lesser heaven sword art? Gyung Pyo started to laugh, asking what happened to the guy who said he wanted to be cool like his senior brother Jin. The silver brother refused to admit he ever said something like that. He just said he was proud as a fellow disciple because Jin beat up that guy and mastered the lesser heaven sword art. However, the bronze brother wondered where Jin was right now. This is the first time he's been gone for over a week, right? And he didn't even say where he was going. The silver brother guessed he was staying away because he felt awkward about hitting another senior in the head. But Gyung Pyo wondered if he left the Taeeul Sect for good, because he was worried that the Gyerong Merchant Guild would retaliate against them. The silver brother said that he was annoying, but he was a good man, talking like Jin was already dead. However, that's when the bronze brother got up, as he saw that senior brother Jin was back. Jin walked through the gates, thinking that if he didn't go to the Iron Sword Sect this time, his father would not have to endure that mockery. But that was just one of the many attempts to humiliate him. After that, the entire Taeeul Sect continued to face constant insults, so there's no need to overthink it. He is not going to the Iron Sword Sect. Not just him. No one from the Taeeul Sect should attend that banquet. To do that, he needs a good excuse. The three rushed to him, with Gyung Pyo wondering where on earth he'd been. Jin wondered if they came to welcome him back, touched that all of his juniors came to greet him as they all shouted together. He hoped they'd been well, and that they'd been listening to the hall masters. As everyone gathered around him and caused a commotion, Jin's father arrived, Tai-san, the outer hall master of the Taeeul Sect. Wondering where on earth he'd been wandering off all this time, Jin immediately began tearing up at seeing his father, and Tai-san wondered why he was now running towards him like they were reuniting after a lifetime apart. Jin never thought he would live to see the day he'd want to throw himself into his father's arms. But suddenly Tai-san smacked him in the head and wondered, does he think acting crazy would get him out of cleaning up the mess he made? Because of that stunt he pulled with the merchant group, the entire Taeeul Sect almost ended up on the streets. The hall masters are furious. They're demanding that Tai-san crack his skull open. Taeeul Yong appeared as well, seeing that the bastard Jin was back. He'd been waiting for him. What kind of cowardly trick did he use last time? They should have a proper duel. Jin, sensing an opportunity, immediately started acting dazzled. His aura is so radiant that he can't even look at him. The effects of that snow plum elixir must be incredible. How could he ever hope to defeat someone as powerful as him? Naturally, Taeeul Yong got flustered and immediately rushed out, telling him that's none of his business. Hong approached Jin, and wondered why he was provoking him. Hasn't he heard about the snow plum elixir being stolen? Jin heard. That's exactly why he was saying it. Tae-san asked Hong why this guy was acting so strange lately, but she didn't know either. He was always a bit odd, but this takes the cake. Jin ignored them, and began opening the bag he was holding, telling everyone to gather as their senior brother brought something for them, a bunch of sweets. He told them to share them fairly. If he catches anyone being greedy, they will all be in trouble. Tae-san wondered where he got that money, saying that if he had money, he should have brought rice, not snacks. Hong also wondered where he got so much money for such expensive treats, but Jin told her to stop nagging and have some too. Hong's expression suddenly faltered, and she told him to forget it, and just stay home from now on. The Gyerong Merchant Guild is busy right now with the Snow Plum Elixir incident, and the Iron Sword Sect leader's birthday, so they barely even come to the Taeeul Sect anymore. The sect leader said they don't need to walk on eggshells around them anymore, so instead of trying to carry everything on his own, he should never disappear like that ever again. Her hair swirled as she snapped her head towards him, and Jin was touched. However, he never really walked on eggshells, and he wasn't carrying any burdens either. Anyway, only the Gyerong Merchant Guild is attending the banquet, right? But Hong told him that the Taeeul Sect is scheduled to attend as well. The sect leader wasn't keen on it, but it would be rude to decline without a good reason. Jin clicked his tongue inside of his own mind, as now he had to find another sort of excuse than the one he was thinking of. Suddenly, though, his father turned his back and told him that he would go to the Iron Sword Sect alone. The rest of them would stay here. Jin wondered what happened to him all of a sudden, but before he could give chase, a junior brother handed him a paper that was filled with items, confectionaries and rice cakes. Hong recognized them as the ones they gave out at the Gyerong Merchant Guild's feast. The junior brother explained that everyone said they were delicious, and he really wanted to eat it with them, so he saved it. But since Jin brought all those expensive treats, he'll probably just throw it away, right? Jin was naturally touched that he saved all of this for him, and immediately grabbed the parchment, eating all of the sweets while telling him that they really are delicious. The junior brother told him that half of those were his, and Jin apologized, saying in exchange he could have his share of the sweets as well. The junior brother was naturally satisfied. Jin turned to Hong. Even if they skipped this banquet, the next one and the one after that, the Iron Sword Sect would keep inviting them, right? Hong confirmed as such. If they had something to celebrate, that would be the case. Jin refused to let that happen. They would have to endure endless insults 10 times over, 100 times over. For the kids, that's unacceptable. So they should go to the Iron Sword Sect now. The day of the Iron Sword Sect leader's 60th birthday came. The procession towards the Iron Sword Sect was pretty big, with a bunch of merchant guilds and sects arriving at the gates. As Jin walked with his sect, another of the hall masters approached him and told him that there's something he must remember at the Iron Sword Sect, not to act rashly under any circumstances. This was Gang Chae-seok, the hall master of the Joyful Flower Hall of the Taeeul Sect. Jin thought he was looking at him a little too pointedly while saying that. Did he come to the banquet instead of the sect leader just to keep an eye on him? Chae-seok told him to be quiet. He's already acting out, huh? Why did he insist on tagging along all of a sudden? Jin told him that he was being really mean. He wanted to be patient, but what if people kept picking on him? Chae-seok told him to endure that as well. He caused trouble recently and didn't even come home. Is he really going through a second puberty or something? Jin told him that he never used to care whether he came home or not. Why the sudden interest? He spent so much time with his father that his nagging is starting to sound identical to his. Jin looked at his father, and saw that he had been awfully quiet, ever since they decided to come to the Iron Sword Sect. Chae-seok, seeing that the brat was not answering him, smashed his fist into his head, with Jin asking if he should just sit, and take it even when people looked down on their sect and insulted their founder. Chae-seok thought he was talking back, after he changed his diapers when he was a baby. How dare he? As they continued bickering, another sect approached, with someone roughly clearing their throat. He apologized, but said they should step aside so they can pass, as one of their companions is already holding a spot for them at the front of the line. Chae-seok wondered what he was talking about. Is he saying this whole group is going to the front? The man confirmed as such. He just said that their companion is already in line. Chae-seok told him that there's a limit to how shameless he can be, openly cutting the line like that. The boy tried to ask him how he dared to raise his voice in front of him, but another approached. Since they've traveled a long way and they're exhausted, they sent someone ahead. He is Guiyang Sa of the Green Bamboo Fortress. Chae-seok, seeing this, told them that they should not make a scene. Why don't they just step aside for a moment? Chaeil-yong's father immediately stepped in front, as the Green Bamboo Fortress was the most prestigious organization in Nanjing, Jiangsu province. He apologized for this bumpkin's rudeness, so they should go on ahead. Jin's eyes narrowed at these bastards. Guiyang Sa, the son of the Green Bamboo Fortress leader, in the future becomes a scoundrel who runs around with Chaeil-yong like they're sworn brothers. Along with Chaeil-yong, he is the bastard who treated the Taeeul Sect disciples like servants. People naturally started to talk, as their hall master froze stiff just by hearing that name. A pig-like sect leader in a pathetic-looking sect. It's the Taeeul Sect after all. The one sect where everyone wonders how they even made it into the 108 peaks. Hearing them start to talk trash like that, Jin pushed past Chaeil-yong and his father, and wondered where they actually came from. The green bamboo of what? The jade bamboo fort? He's never really heard of them. Could he say that again? Naturally Sa got mad, but Jin pushed it even further. The Green Bamboo Fortress, was it? He probably heard that name before, but where was it? Oh, now he remembers. It was the name of an outhouse, wasn't it? A heavy silence fell after he said those words, and Sa immediately took out his blade, asking him how he dared to insult the Green Bamboo Fortress. Just before he could swing fully at Jin, a woman approached, wondering what all of this noise was about. The people recognized her as the beautiful wolf sword of the Iron Sword Sect. She wondered if they knew her grandfather's birthday banquet was no place to see blood spilled. This is the beautiful wolf sword of the Iron Sword Sect, Seong Mo-ran. The Iron Sword Sect is a rising sect founded only 150 years ago. They held no grudge against the Taeeul Sect. The problem was that they had settled in the same city, Hefei. There cannot be two suns under just one sky. The Iron Sword Sect was not content with merely expanding, and wanted to take the Taeeul Sect's place among the 108 peaks. Even before his regression, the Taeeul Sect attended the Iron Sword Sect leader's 60th birthday banquet. Saryeon, Chaeil-yong, and he joined the banquet for people their age. There, he argued with the Iron Sword Sect leader's grandson, the Blood Wolf Iron Sword Seong Mo-hyun. Mo-hyun insulted the Taeeul Sect and challenged him to a duel, knowing Jin would lose. Once his father found out, he knelt and apologized to the Iron Sword Sect leader in front of countless people. Jin noted that if his father did that now, this time would be no different, except he would never let his father bow again. Moran asked once again what the issue was, and Sa immediately deflated, sheepishly trying to explain that it was all this guy's fault. Moran told him that the Iron Sword Sect had no rule about saving places in line, so they should go back and wait. She was late to introduce herself. She's Seong Mo-ran of the Iron Sword Sect. She apologized for what just happened. She looked at Jin, noting that this was hardly compensation, but asking if she could escort the people of the Taeeul Sect and the Gyeorong Merchant Guild. She immediately did so, letting them skip the line. Chaeil-yong fell in step with Moran, having heard that there was a beautiful flower among the wolves of the Iron Sword Sect, but it seems the rumors fall short of her true beauty. Having heard countless variations of this, Moran just thanked him, and told him that the young sect leader was eagerly awaiting the Gyeong Merchant Guild and the Taeeul Sect, so they should go. Jin looked at her, recognizing her for who she was. Before his regression, Moran had no connection to the Taeeul Sect. Did his actions change something? Or does she have some sort of an ulterior motive? They arrived, but Jin was not there to celebrate. This was definitely not goodwill without a reason. He would have to keep watching for now. They made their way inside of the banquet hall, where everyone was gathered. The Iron Sword Sect leader, Song Chonwol, was already there, and the person beside him was the young sect leader, Song Jutak. The Gyeong Merchant Guild bastards immediately pushed forward, giving their greetings. Jutak told them to drop the formalities, as that would only build walls between them. It seemed that Taeeul Yong was here too. It's been quite some time. Even now, when he thinks of losing a talent like him, he gets so angry he cannot sleep at night. Honestly, if not for the absurd privileges of those 108 peaks, he would have taken him as his disciple. Moran stopped his tirade, and told her father that these were the people of the Taeeul Sect. He should greet them properly. Jutak looked at the Taeeul Sect with undisguised indifference. Chaeseok, along with Taesan, bowed their heads, introducing themselves. Jutak had seen them a few times at the Murim Alliance. Taesan, of course. It's been 20 years since that incident. How has that fellow sect leader Hong been lately? Looking closely, the young lady he brought must be his daughter. Who is the other one? Before Taesan could even answer, Jutak clicked his tongue as he looked at them. Their talent seems pretty disappointing. Are these children really their best prospects? Well, that's what they get for growing up in the Taeeul Sect. They should not waste their energy on useless things and just focus on supporting Taeeul Yong. By supporting him, however, he certainly did not mean teaching him those martial arts. If Taeeul Yong trained hard enough in those martial arts, he would only end up as a third-grade martial artist. Jin scoffed as he noted that Jutak looked like a back-alley thug, and he certainly spat out irritating words just like one. Jutak naturally got angry, wondering what the hell he was saying right now, and Jin approached, apologizing. He meant to say that in his head, but it slipped out. Jutak didn't believe that was a true apology, but Jin thought that it was pretty true. Just now he addressed his junior sister's father and their sect, as if they were old friends. He asked about another sect's achievements, something martial artists should never ask lightly, and lastly, did he act like he knew the martial arts of their sect? Then he belittled and dismissed them. Why wouldn't he be angry after hearing something like that? Still though, they say one should not be rude even to an arrogant person, so this is clearly his fault. He offered his sincerest apologies. Everyone was amused or bewildered by Jin's actions, even Moran, who held back a laugh. In turn, Chonwol simply watched as this situation unfolded, and Jin asked Jutak if he would not accept his apology. In response, Jutak gripped his cup roughly, and prepared to smash it across Jin's head, but that's when someone came and told him that the Murim Alliance chief strategist has just arrived. He'd finally arrived, so absolutely everyone rushed to greet him, with even Chonwol getting up and telling the servants to bring the prepared gifts at once. Jutak let the situation go, and Hong wondered if they shouldn't go too. Jin refused. Hundreds of people will rush to build ties with the chief strategist anyway. It's 100 times better not to go instead. Naturally, Chaeseok immediately got on his case, grabbing him by the collar and asking what the hell he was thinking, speaking that way to the Iron Sword Sect's young sect leader. How many times does he have to tell him to behave? Jin told him to be honest. When Jin was speaking with Jutak earlier, Chaeseok saw everything from behind. If Jin hadn't stepped in, Chaeseok would have drawn his blade. Jin noted that if he noticed, Jutak certainly did as well. He was probably running his mouth, waiting for someone to draw a blade. He told him not to act recklessly. Can he see that the Iron Sword Sect is trying to provoke them? He should act like a gentleman if he can. And he asked what had even happened 20 years ago. They both looked bitter throughout the whole reception. Chaeseok looked at Taesan, who in turn shook his head, so Chaeseok stayed silent. Sensing an opportunity, Moran beamed at them and told them that they should talk inside. She'll take them to some good seats. Chaeseok immediately agreed, following her pretty robotically. They were taken to a fine VIP seat with a clear view of a beautiful lake, and delicacies they couldn't even dream of eating, making Jin even more suspicious of why she was treating them so well. Moran asked for his name, and Jin told her, but wondered why she wasn't going to see the chief strategist of the Murim Alliance. Moran explained that the Iron Sword Sect's rules don't include women in important matters, so she won't be punished for just not being there. The Iron Sword Sect's young sect leader has 2 children, the Blood Wolf Iron Sword, Seong Mohyun, and the Beautiful Wolf Sword, Seong Moran. Growing up, Mohyun monopolized the Iron Sword Sect's resources because he was considered the one who would eventually inherit the sect. On the other hand, Moran, despite beginning her internal energy training at the late age of 9, is a genius who will later enter the Murim Academy alongside her brother. Jin noted that rumors said the Beautiful Wolf's fangs were sharper than those of the Blood Wolf. Receiving such undeserved treatment from someone like her may actually be good for their sect. Moran was surprised he knew so much about her. Was he perhaps interested in her? Jin noted that he was only sharing rumors he'd heard often, which caused Moran to laugh. Anyway, she also apologized on her father's behalf for what happened earlier. Since they had dealings with the Gyeong Merchant Guild in the past, he must have reacted differently. He must have acted that way because he deeply regrets losing brother Taeeul Yong. Jin told her that they could take him now if they wanted to. Anyway, there was also something he was curious about. Why did the Iron Sword Sect intend to invite the Taeeul Sect there? Moran gave him a knowing smile and wondered, isn't a banquet more meaningful when more people gather to celebrate? Jin, with his mouth full, he told her that many murders in history happened during banquets too. Moran looked at him for a long moment and got up, noting that Jin is indeed an interesting man, and even if she would like to share a meal with him in order to ease his suspicions, it's time for her to go. so she excuses herself and leaves. As the banquet continued throughout the night, Moran was invited countless times to join people for drinks or for walks or whatever, to the point that she decided to just climb on a roof and stay there as people were looking for her. This is the only place she can breathe after all. To think that there isn't a single decent man among them, let alone a true warrior. Still, that Jin of the Taeeul Sect was quite interesting. His internal energy seemed insignificant, but even before the scion of the Green Bamboo Fortress, even before her father, he never lowered his head and was confident. Is he not afraid of the Iron Sword Sect? Or is he just insane? As she continued munching on her treats, she saw from a distance Hong and Chaeil Yong going somewhere. She wondered where they were going. However, from the men that tried to invite her, she heard that her brother said he would gather only the young disciples for drinks tonight. But why are only those two going? Isn't Jin going with them too? She smiled as she found a way to have some fun. She descended from the roof and went to Jin's accommodation, where he asked what she was doing there so late at night. She explained that their Iron Sword Sect has prepared a banquet for the young rising stars to build friendships. She thought it would be wonderful if he could join them. Jin thanked her, but declined. It's been a long day. The other Taeeul Sect disciples and he are mentally exhausted. Moran wondered what he meant by that because she saw the young lady Hong on her way there. Jin immediately began to follow Moran, thinking that before his regression he couldn't hold himself back against Mohyun's provocations. It happened at this very banquet, and it ended up in a duel. As a result, his father and the Taeeul Sect suffered humiliation, just to pretend the duel never even happened. That's why he tried avoiding it this time, but he muttered under his breath that he had no choice but to attend. He can't leave his junior sister alone in a place where the Iron Sword Sect might have set a trap. Moran stopped in her tracks, eyes narrowing, wondering if he really said that the Iron Sword Sect would invite them just to set a trap. Jin turned to her, claiming that she was far too innocent, or her acting skills were even better than her martial arts perhaps. Moran sighed, as, just like this afternoon, he seemed to be showing a massive inferiority complex towards the Iron Sword Sect. Jin was surprised. Could it be that she truly doesn't know what her own people are plotting? She agreed that they considered the Taeeul Sect a thorn in their side, but even so, the Iron Sword Sect did not act like a pack of sick thugs. Jin couldn't help but grin, predicting that at this banquet, her brother Mohyun would create an opportunity to trample over his sect. Even if he did back down, eventually he would turn the Taeeul Sect into a laughing stock. Moran scoffed, as she clearly misjudged him. She thought he would be an upright man who wouldn't tolerate injustice, but he was just a lunatic suffering from a complex. Jin walked inside, also hoping that this was just a delusion of his. Inside, Sa stood in the middle, wondering if this really made sense, that the Taeeul Sect is still part of the 108 Peaks, when an exceptional orthodox sect like the Iron Sword Sect of Hefei is not. Even the most prestigious Gyurong Merchant Guild is inevitably tied to their sect because of that cursed special admission that the 108 Peaks gets. What a tragedy. Everyone laughed at Hong because she hadn't said a single word in response. She couldn't, because nothing Sa said was wrong. Hong, despite feeling like crap, was kind of glad she was here because that meant senior brother Jin wasn't. However, Sa pushed further than she expected, telling her, "Now, I want to hear the Taeeul Sect's official stance. Stagnant, rotten water must be drained for good. Doesn't the sect agree?" Hong froze, clutching her GI until her knuckles turned white. Before she could answer, Jin just plopped in between her and Chaeil Yong, agreeing with that sentiment.